Good day, happy Wednesday. Greetings to all. Glory and honor to our Father, Yahweh, and Messiah, Yahweh Shai. Glory and honor to their name. Greetings to the 12 tribes scattered into the four corners of the earth, according to this book, and to the 144,000 who are among them as the forerunners of the return of Messiah, the establishment of his kingdom, and the destruction of the system of Babylon. Greetings. And to the precious Gentiles who have come into the perfection of righteousness through the line of the tribe of Judah, who the Bible calls Jesus Christ, who we know his name is Yahweh Shai. Greetings. Greetings to the chat. Sister Daniels, Brother Justin Moore, Yah Free, Brother Naviska, Superstar, Brother David Harriet, Brother Mark, Brother Stephen Kelly, Akawamba and Yah Shalom. To all of you and your families, blessings. Wednesday night is usually reserved for current events, and this is no different, although it's slightly different. I want to take you on a little bit of a journey, a little bit of a history, so you will understand where we are. In the description box, I put the definition of dictator in the description box, so you can see the definition of dictator. As a matter of fact, allow me to read it. The definition of dictator from Oxford Languages Dictionary: a ruler with total power over a country, typically one who has obtained control by force. So what does it say a dictator is? A ruler with total power over a country, typically one who has obtained control by force. Okay, that's a dictator. A ruler who has control of a country, total control. And he usually obtained this control by force. I think we could safely say, without being exaggerative, that anyone who is, in fact, a dictator is into power, into having absolute power. And no man who has been a dictator, particularly in the last 100 to 200 years, sure, has ever relinquished his power or shared his power. Do you all understand it? So nobody who has ever been a dictator has, first of all, we can say for sure, the dictionary just told us they have total power. And they obtain this power by force. And no party that's ever been a dictator has ever shared their power with anyone. Okay? Generally, a dictator must be overthrown or killed, or both, in order to lose their power. They generally are into power. Okay? That's going to be very important as we're studying what we're studying tonight. Okay. Also, I want to bring this up as well. Generally speaking, we know that Asatan seeks to have his own kingdom. He's making this earth into his kingdom right now, which is why we have a system that the Bible calls Babylon. Okay? He has his own whore that is his personal whore that he has developed. He has trained her. He has brought her up, and he has the world bowing to her. But the world doesn't realize they're really bowing to him, because the world follows his doctrines, as we know his doctrines, the doctrines he came with to Eve in the garden. The two doctrines are, one, he told Eve, ye shall never die. After the Creator said, you will die, Asatan said, you will never die. Okay? And today, in the form of entertainment, in the form of recordings, in the form of many different ways, people continue. People are still buying posters with Marilyn Monroe's body on it. She's been dead 60-something years. And they still buying posters. That's how he makes people live forever. People still saying Elvis is still alive. Tupac is still alive. Because that's how Asatan tries to create an illusion that people can live forever, because he said you would never die. Number two is he told Eve, you and Adam, The reason the Most High doesn't want you to eat the fruit of this tree is because he knows if you eat this fruit, you guys are going to become gods. Second lie, man can be a god. These two on all man-made religions on the planet Earth, all on these two principles are in every one. All giant man-made institutions in planet Earth, these two principles are there. Okay, so we know this. Also, as understanding this, we see in the book of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 14, Isaiah chapter 14. And again, I want to admonish you, please read your Bible. Start at Genesis. Read all the way through to Revelation. It will take you a year, maybe more. It will change your life. Pray to your Creator for him to guide you in this Bible. And your life will change. And when you finished reading it, when you go from Genesis and you read all the way through to Revelation, read it again. When you finish the second time, read it again. It's a spiritual exercise that will change your life and is not, again, based on your intellectual capability. Isaiah chapter 14, beginning at verse 12, a very familiar passage. Isaiah chapter 14, beginning at verse 12 and going to verse 14. Isaiah 14, from verse 12 to verse 14. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So we know that what the Most High is, what he does, is always counterfeited by Asatan. He always tries to bring a counterfeit. Asatan brings the counterfeit to what the Most High does. So, Most High creates a chosen people who he has called from Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob, who he personally changed his name to Israel. And those children are his chosen people. As the Bible showed us, his chosen people were enslaved and scattered. But Asatan created his own version of the chosen people and put his version of the chosen people in the land that the chosen people had, and he did it with his own creation called the United Nations. That's an example. Okay? That's an example. He's always trying to pervert something he has seen from the Most High. Now, we have seen, when we studied Daniel, and that's what we've been studying lately, we've been studying the prophecies of Daniel. We saw the four powers that the Most High outlines in Daniel chapter 2, and we saw them again in Daniel chapter 7, and you're going to see more of it in Daniel 8, in Daniel 9, in Daniel 10, in Daniel 11. You're going to see more of it. But we saw it so far in Daniel chapter 2. We saw the operation of the change in power from Babylon to the Medes and the Persians in Daniel chapter 5. And then we saw the four powers again illustrated in another way in Daniel chapter 7, if you recall. The last power being Rome, which was different, the Bible says, from the other powers before it. And all four of these are picked, as we show from Zechariah chapter 1, of all the many, many dynasties and empires that have been on the earth. The reason the Most High outlines these four, and this is your first quiz question for the night. The reason the Most High outlines these four is why. Why did, of all the many dynasties and empires that have existed on every continent on the planet Earth, why has he outlined, according to Zechariah, these four? Why has he outlined these four? Because these four personally put hands and scattered the chosen people. They came to the chosen people's land and scattered them. They touched, literally scattered them off their land and touched the apple of his eye. That would be Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks, and finally the Romans. Okay, that's why he touched those four who came to the land of the Hebrews and scattered the Hebrews. That's why he picks those four. And the Bible says in Zechariah chapter 1, and let's take a look at that. Zechariah chapter 1. Zechariah chapter 1. And I'm going to read verse 19. Zechariah chapter 1, verse 19. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Okay, so he picked those four of all the many, many empires that have existed, the dynasties of China, the African empires in Africa, the continent of Africa, the British Empire, the Spaniards, and all of these different empires. He picks these four because these four have scattered Israel and Judah. They started the process of getting us off our land, okay, into the situation we are in now. Okay, the fourth one we saw is Rome, which is different from the others because it's not only a power that existed as a military power, but it's a power that existed or exists as a religious power, which the Bible also showed us persecutes the saints. Okay, and we praise the Most High because what makes the Bible legit is its 100% accuracy in terms of prophecy. There is no other book, no other prophet, no other person that can boast of 100% accuracy as the Bible can. The people that don't understand the Bible is 100% accurate or 100% never read it, which is why I encourage you to start at Genesis and go through Revelation. There are many people, as you know, out here claiming to be Bible teachers and teaching Bible and have never read the book, read pieces of it here and there, but could never say they read it. Those are the same ones telling you about prophecy. Read your Bible. Start at Genesis 1:1 and finish at Revelation 22:21. And you will start to learn for yourself the Bible. Okay, so the prophetic utterance, according to my witness, which I have read through the Bible 20 times from cover to cover, is 100% accurate. Now, let's look at Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13. Again, we're talking about dictators. We're talking about treaties. I put a link to the Lateran Pact in the description box. We're going to talk about that. We talk about how Satan tries to mimic, or not just mimic, but he tries to make a counterfeit to what the Most High does. The Most High made man and woman. Satan makes man and woman and woman. The Most High made sex. Satan made fornication and adultery. Okay? He always perverts what Father Yah does. Now, Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13. Let's begin at verse 1 and read down to verse 3. Revelation chapter 13. All right. Beginning at verse 1 and going down to verse 3. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. First, I looked up again the 10 horns, the G10, and I was wrong the last time when I told you Portugal and Spain were in it. They're not. Portugal and Spain were were 2 of the 3 horns that were plucked up. The 10 horns represent the United States, Canada, and Japan as the 3 replacements. And then you got the UK, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, France, Italy, and now I'm missing one. Did I say France? I did. Italy. I said the Netherlands. I said Belgium. Belgium, the Netherlands, France, Italy. Oh, I'm sorry. Switzerland and Sweden. There's 11. But they count 10, as I said, they count 10. Switzerland and Sweden, right? They count 10 because Belgium and the Netherlands in the ancient Roman Empire were the same nation. They've been divided up for about a century or so, but they initially were the same nation. So they count Belgium, and they'll call themselves the G10, although there's 11 of them. For that purpose, they call themselves the G10. Okay, so yes, Portugal and Spain are not included in that because that was Visigoth and Ostrogoth territory, along with the Moors and the Hebrews. Okay, but they got plucked up. Okay, so yeah, there you go. So now, verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were, very important. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now, wait a second. Let's talk about what we found out from Daniel, that this is the Babylon system that we're in. The UN is being controlled secretly by the whore. The whore is the Pope and the papacy of Rome, the Vatican. Okay, and we know the 7 heads comes from a conglomeration of ancient Babylon, which was one head, the Medes and the Persians, which was the bear, if you remember, the other head, the 4 heads of what initially was the division of the Greek Empire, right? And then the Roman Empire. So that's 7. The middle one, there's 6 on each side. We're going to talk about that. Corel, wait for me for a second. The middle head is the Roman one because we know that the Roman one had 10 horns on it, and the little horn popped up from that one. Okay, so you had the other 6, and then you had the middle one, which is the Roman one, and had the little horn, the religious power, pop out from the Roman one, and then you had the 10 horns that were now became 7. Now, the middle horn is Rome, and it said it received a deadly wound. What was the deadly wound? So when was Rome wounded? There's only one time in modern history, when I say modern, I'm talking about in the last 300 years. There's only one time in modern history that Rome received a wound. Even during the World War I, the World War II, no bombs ever touched the Vatican. None. What was the wound that happened? Look up 1798. What happened in 1798? Important. There was a man in France named Napoleon, and he had a revolution. Y'all ever heard of the French Revolution? The French Revolution by Napoleon Bonaparte. Part of his revolution was that he was doing away with religion. As a matter of fact, what he's replacing religion with was what they called the goddess of reason. The United States received the gift of the goddess of reason. Do you know what the gift is that we call the goddess of that's called the goddess of reason? But we don't call it the goddess of reason. We have it for everybody to see in the United States. Do you know what that goddess of reason is? Yes, they call it the Statue of Liberty. They call it what? Lady Liberty. That's right. They got that from France. That's the goddess of reason. As part of his revolution and as part of his establishment of reason over religion, he sent his general, who was called Berthier. Look this up, 1798. He received this general named Berthier, marched on the Vatican and literally took the Pope captive and put him in a French prison. Now, they later recanted that, but that was the deadly wound. Y'all understand it? It says, as it were. Notice it said, as it were, not really dead, as it were. Apparently dead. So one of the things that the devil tries to counterfeit the Father is in the area of resurrection. In the area of resurrection. So you see, Messiah was put to death. And 3.5 days later, he rose. Okay? And so that's the resurrection. The Messiah said, I am the resurrection and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Now, what does the devil do? His Messiah is the Roman Catholic Church. No man cometh unto me, he says, except through him. Now, they seem to receive a deadly wound. The Pope is arrested and put in jail. And reason is in charge. Until Benito Mussolini signed what's called the Lateran Pact, the Lateran Treaty. I put it in the description box. The Lateran Treaty was signed in 1929. What is the Lateran Treaty? First, we must understand Benito Mussolini was legit, by anybody's standard, a dictator. He was a dictator, which means what we saw? He obtained absolute power and authority in Italy, and he did it by force. So we already established a dictator is you have to be into power to be a dictator. Not only that, a dictator doesn't share his power with anybody. Benito Mussolini was a dictator in Italy, and he was a dictator during the time of World War II. You had Chancellor Hitler, who was a dictator. You had Hirohito in Japan, who was a dictator. The difference between those other two and Benito Mussolini, Hitler took over most of Europe. He took over France. He took over Holland. He took over Belgium. He took over Czechoslovakia. He took over Poland. He took everything he could get his hands on. Over there in Japan, they was taking China. They was taking Laos. They was taking what became Vietnam. They was taking the Philippines. They was moving on their stuff. Benito Mussolini only won one skirmish, and it was against a country that had no weapons of modern technology, Ethiopia. That's the only country he attacked and won. So he wasn't really no military genius. So what was he empowered to do? The Lateran Treaty. Well, what did the Lateran Treaty do? The Lateran Treaty gave power to the Vatican. The Lateran Treaty permitted the Vatican to become its own country within Benito Mussolini's Italy. Why would he do that? Why would he, a dictator, allow a church? I mean, you know, dictators. What church did Hitler allow? What church did Hitler? They had pictures of Hitler in all the churches in Germany. They had pictures of Hirohito. They worshipped him in Japan. Why would Benito Mussolini, a dictator, allow a church, a Christian church, to have power, to have their own territory? The 109-acre Vatican territory became its own country, established ambassadors. The Pope became not only the leader of the Catholic Church, but he became the leader of his country. The people, just like in the United States, the office of the President of the United States, no matter who holds that office, is the most powerful office in the United States. Well, no matter who holds the office of the Pope, that person, a man usually, well, a man always, that man is the head of his church, which is over 1 billion members, and the head of his own country, officially. Benito Mussolini claimed to be an atheist. He was raised Roman Catholic, but he claimed to be an atheist. Had a lot of women, had a lot of lovers, had children all over the place. But when it came to 1929, that brother allowed the Pope to have his own country in his country. So there was the resurrection. The wound was healed. See? And it saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. All the world wondered after the beast. And they do. So that is an example of Rome practicing its resurrections. It loves to do that. Now, one more thing we need to understand about Rome. I didn't put this in the description box, and you could look this up on your own. Look up the creation of the Roman Catholic Jesuit order. Jesuit stands for Society of Jesus. Nowadays, Jesuits are all over the place in powerful positions. The governor of Florida is a Jesuit. The Pope is from the Jesuit order. The President of the United States was trained by Jesuits. 6 of the 7 Supreme Court justices are Jesuits. One of them, a 7th one, was raised Roman Catholic, went to Roman Catholic school with the Roman Catholic prep school with the other one, Brett Kavanaugh, who was a Roman Catholic. The other 2, one's a so-called Protestant married to an Ashkenazi, and the other one's an Ashkenazi. So in effect, you have 7 of the 9 Supreme Court justices trained by Jesuits. Okay, who is the Jesuit? Jesuit order was created in the 16th century. It was created for the express purpose of destroying the Protestant movement. How would they do that? As a matter of fact, let me make sure I remember this. There is a Jesuit priest, or he was a Jesuit priest. He did now. He was a Jesuit priest named Alberto Rivera, and he gave testimony of all the things I'm telling you now. Okay? He's dead now. He was poisoned. But before he died, he gave these testimonies. Now, the Jesuit order was created to destroy the Protestant movement. How were they going to destroy the Protestant movement? It was difficult to fight with them by, first what they tried to do was burn them at stakes, threaten them like they did William Tyndale, torture them, strangle them, burn them at the stake, make public examples out of them. But that did not stop the Europeans from becoming Protestant Christians. So what they decided to do was they would infiltrate the organizations, the various, at that time, underground Christian organizations. They would infiltrate them. They would train Jesuits to become what today you might be called Lutheran, or you might be called Anglican, or you might be called Church of God, or SDA, or Mormon. They would train, they did it all the way to today. They trained Jesuits to become these denominations and enter them and then influence them to look positively on Rome. It took centuries, but it worked. The Jesuits became so good at infiltration, at disguising themselves as being some people that they weren't, that they started not only doing it with Protestant churches, they started doing it with governments. They became, well, today, the CIA is basically a model of the ancient Jesuit order. All your CIAs, your MI6s, your Mossads, all of these groups are basically, they got their template from the Jesuit order, okay? Because they didn't exist then, but the Jesuit order did. They became so good at infiltrating governments that they started toppling governments. They started creating revolutions in places they wanted revolution. Have you heard of maybe the United States possibly creating revolutions and overthrows of governments in foreign countries? Have you heard of that maybe? Has that maybe happened in some countries? Have you ever heard that maybe they did this in, places like Chile and maybe Peru and maybe Nicaragua, maybe a few places you might have heard, some African nations like Liberia, maybe they created some revolutions that would cause overthrow of governments? Well, all of that is not originally with the United States. That started with the Jesuit order. They became so good at it that Catholics in power requested that the Pope disband the Jesuit order. And that's part of Napoleon's, it just so happened that after the Pope wrote a papal bull to disband the Jesuit order, you had the revolution in France, which resulted in a deadly wound. And the reason the Pope got out of jail, or his successor, was because he wrote another papal bull reinstituting the Jesuit order. Now, why would a dictator like Mussolini, who gained power, complete power, and gained it by force, purposely, willfully decide to share power with anybody? Why would he do that? I'll let you think about that. But let's talk about the most recent phenomenon that we're getting ready to see of another resurrection. On November 8th, 2016, Donald Trump became president of the United States. And I want to tell you, if you remember that night like I do, he and his wife were shocked. They were shocked that they won. They had no idea they were going to win. He just was trying to do this for publicity to make money off of it. But he was as shocked as anybody. And if you go back and you listen to news reports of November 8th, the story kept repeating. What was the story? Let's start with, say, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, won by Trump in 2016. What was the story? And this story is repeated in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Florida, in Ohio. Pennsylvania. The majority of the population of Pennsylvania is in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Those two cities probably have, I would be conservative, I say 60% of the state's population is in these two areas. Pittsburgh being the smaller, Philly being the big one. Okay, so basically, whoever wins those two cities is pretty much a shoo-in to win that state. So this is what it went. It looks good for Hillary Clinton in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia, results are in. Philadelphia is for Hillary Clinton. It looks like it's going to be Hillary Clinton in Pittsburgh. But wait, a wave of votes coming in from the suburbs for Trump. And it's getting closer, and it's getting closer, and it's getting closer. Trump overtakes Hillary Clinton in Pennsylvania. Trump wins Pennsylvania. The same thing happened in in Michigan. The same thing happened in Wisconsin. The same thing happened in Florida. And if you think that that was by accident, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you. It was the exact same pattern, state after state, in states that usually this Democratic Party would win. Not that night. So then, if the fix was in for Donald Trump, the question would be, why was the fix in for Donald Trump? What was it that the powers that be, particularly we know now where the center of that power is with the whore, why would she want Donald Trump to be president? Because I want to tell you, I think you all understand, if you've been around a little bit, I've been fooled a few times. I ain't going to be afraid to front. I've been deceived. But all the presidential elections are fixed. Y'all know that, right? Right? I'm not telling you nothing you don't know. They're all fixed. What they do is they decide who they want to be president, and then they use the marketing power and the money to convince the public that they voted for that person. Okay, that's what they do. Because media is so powerful, it brainwashes people by the millions. It does. Okay, that's facts. So they had decided that Donald Trump was going to be president. And even he was shocked. But why? Well, of course, he would use the office for his personal gain, but that wasn't the reason. It was who he would pick as judges. Okay, who he would pick as judges. I can't even tell you, it was over 100 lower court federal judges he put in place. Okay, right-wing, conservative, and mostly Catholic that he put in place. But it was the Supreme Court where he made his mark. Very few presidents get to pick 3 Supreme Court justices. And they actually said there was, I forgot which station it was on. Maybe it was Fox. I'm not. But they said when it was time to pick, Trump didn't know who to pick. So they had advisors give him a list and say, pick from these. And he picked Amy Coney Barrett, Roman Catholic. He picked Brett Kavanaugh, Roman Catholic. And then he picked Neil Gorsuch, who was raised Roman Catholic, said he was at one point Episcopal. Now they ask him, he won't say what he is. but he was raised staunch Roman Catholic. So that you have 7 of them on the Supreme Court that are young enough to be on the Supreme Court all the way to the end. Okay? Let's go back to Mussolini for a second. Once they were done, once Mussolini signed that pact and he became the dictator in Italy, he ended up his life being hung in a public square by the people of Rome. And he had a lover. She was also killed that same day. Okay. He had persecuted his wife. He had many lovers. And one of his first wife was tripping about the lovers. And his son, who he had with that one, was tripping. He had them both committed to institutions where they died. But when they was finished with him, he ended up hung in public square in Italy. Okay. Well, where's Donald Trump headed? I'll tell you what, he's not going to be president, but it looks real bad, doesn't it? Doesn't it look bad? I mean, look, he's got the district attorney in New York coming at him, and they already, dealing with him on some business dealings with the porn actress and some illegal payments that he made with campaign contributions. They got the checks, they got the signatures, and that's the least of his work. That really is the least. That's the least serious one of all. He got a more serious one with the January 6th uprising, and now all of his homies running their mouth to the government on him. He got a more serious one by taking classified documents and bringing them to Mar-a-Lago and then claiming he didn't have them when they found them. He got a more serious one when he called the district attorney, the state election official in Georgia, and say, find me X number of votes so we can win Georgia. And they got it recorded that he interfering with the election because he wanted to win Georgia. And so those are felonies. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to break them out one at a time. They're going to break them out one at a time. They're going to stretch him out until it's time for the election. And either he's going to go to jail or he's not going to be permitted to run because of the felony. When you get convicted of a felony in the United States, you cannot run for president. Okay? He may go to jail, but if he gets convicted of a felony, even if he makes a deal, but he gets convicted of a felony, he cannot run for president. Which means right now, as it looks, I was looking at this show the other day and I was laughing because, Joe Biden just declared he's going to run for president again. Boy, like 100 years old. Well, seriously, he's like 82 years old. And I'm old and my father's 82. Joe Biden don't even know where he is half the time. So basically, they're giving away. The Democrats are just giving it away already. Okay. Then you got Donald Trump on the other side, and they say, who's going to win, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Got everybody thinking is this. Why? Because it looks bad for Donald Trump. Joe Biden ain't going to win. So now you're going to have the resurrection of the Republicans. And I told y'all 2 years ago. Didn't I tell y'all 2 years ago? I said, watch the governor of Florida. Or was it last year? I say it was last year. I think it was a year ago. I told y'all a year ago. Watch the governor of Florida. Watch the governor of Florida. And we know from the prophecies we've been studying, there's not that many years left. We know this is 2023. We're talking 2032 on the outside. So we got less than 10 years left of this thing. Okay. And I told y'all the next president is going to be the last one. Because when a president is even halfway popular, they run for 8 years, right? When they're even halfway popular, they run for 8 years. Okay, here you go. Brethren, we're going to see a wave of revival of the 3 Abrahamic religions. I've been telling you all this, and I'm telling you now, because right now they got the whole public fooled. But you see, because we read this here, we don't have to be fooled, y'all. The Bible shows us who's in charge. Don't ever believe Media. Don't believe it. Okay? Because media, by virtue of its existence, is built to control your mind and lie to you. Again, let me ask you, here's your second test question. What is the only way you can avoid being brainwashed by the media into believing a lie? What is the only way you can avoid being brainwashed by the media into believing a lie? And we know that's right. But this is the only way. It's the only way. And again, even with this book, again, you got people attacking it who have never read it. Okay? That's why my message to you, don't listen to me. Start in Genesis. Go through the Revelation. It'll take you a year in most cases. There's programs that can tell you to read a little bit every day till you get through a year. Pray to your creator, Father Yah. Pray to Father Yah and ask him to guide you by his spirit, and he will. If you are sincere to be a follower of your creator and not trying to be a God yourself. You see, that's what stops a lot of people, brethren. I've seen many people start churches and they got themselves fingerprint all over it because they're doing it for their own gain. I've seen people say, I want to teach, I want to start church. And the reason they want to do is they want to sell tapes, they want to sell books, they want to make money. That's our Satan's religion right there. If you want to seriously be a servant of the creator, then ask him to guide you in his word so that you can be obedient to him. That's it. He's not interested in you starting your own church. He don't want you to do that. The Most High ain't interested in no man-made religion. His chosen people are people he chose and named himself. He don't need no more churches. He don't need no more camps. He don't need no camps. He needs obedience from those that claim to be his. Look, we'll finish with this one. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Y'all know this one. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, beginning at verse 3 and go down to verse 12. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 from verse 3 down to verse 12. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called Most High, or that is worshipped, so that he, as Most High, sitteth in the temple of Most High, showing himself that he is Most High. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know that ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom Yahweh shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. Why? Because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause, Yah shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned, who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Yes, brethren, if it's your desire to serve your creator, to be obedient, not to a church, not to any man, not to any man-made religion, not to yourself as a God, but to the creator of heaven and earth, the sea, the sun, the sky, the birds, and the trees and everything, to be obedient to him, read his word and ask him for his spirit, and he will guide you in truth and obedience. Most people can't do it. And the reason they can't is not because they can't read, it's because they self is in the way, because they want exaltation. It's one of the watchwords today. People kill because of what they want. People steal because of what they want. People do things, they go after power and money because of what they want. Our Satan's ready to give you that stuff if that's what you want. But about 9 years from now, it's not going to exist anymore. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Sure. Better catch this one before they get rid of it.